Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to B-Ball Breakdown. I'm pleased to have Arturo Galletti, who is the Chief Science Officer, I believe, at BoxScoreGeeks.com. Is that your correct title, Arturo?
Yeah, I mean these web developers. It's chief scientist, but I mean again, what it means is I get to crunch all I get to crunch all the numbers and come up with the equations, and I give them to my guys who are like the web developers, and they make them pretty.
Terrific. Well, let's use some of that information that you have to talk about the Eastern Conference playoff race, because on Twitter we were interacting and there were some really fascinating possibilities that were going to be coming up that you see. So lay it on us. What do you see as the most interesting thing about this Eastern Conference race?
Well, I think we're about to see the most embarrassing tank off for the AC in the Eastern Conference that we've ever seen. Because here's the thing: right now, the model based on the numbers projects the Hawks to be the AC, right? But if anybody's been watching the Hawks are not trying to win. The Hawks may not win another game for the rest of the season. So if we take them out of the equation, because again, they won, they've lost, they've had all these injuries. They realize they can't win the first round, and they want another lottery pick. So it's actually they have the incentive to get there. And it's kind of obvious from the way they've kind of been playing. And then you look at at what the range is. You have, it looks like 32-33 might be the magic number, and you have you have 5 teams within reach of that. So if we discount the Hawks, we assume the Hawks are not going to make it, then you've got the Knicks, you've got the Pistons, you've got the Cavs, you've got the Celtics. So I mean, it's kind of crazy because I mean, the Celtics are projecting to be 3 games out of I've got the Knicks at 33 and the Celtics at 30, and honestly, if you really think about it, the Celtics have the best player of the bunch. And they've been playing like it recently. So if the Celtics don't want to make the playoffs, they're going to have to do something with Rajon. Maybe shut him down as a precautionary measure and say, no, we don't want to risk your ankle. We want you to just go to that birthday party. Go to all the birthday parties you want for the rest of the season.
What about the Pistons? Do they look like they might get to that 33-34 win plateau?
I got the Pistons with 32 wins right now. It's right now and what I do is I run a sim. I keep track of what a team looks like in terms of their point margin or neutral site, and that updates. So right now I've got, and I'm in the process of writing it. So right now I've got the and I think it's fairly common. I've got the Rockets, the Clippers, the Warriors, the Heat, and then the Spurs are the top 5 teams, right? So and the Thunder and the Pacers are ailing a little bit, but of that group that we're talking about, I mean the Knicks are probably the closest to 500 right now. So I've got them almost at 0. But the problem with the Knicks is that if you start looking at how they keep blowing these games, it's hard to trust them, right? So the model has them at 33 wins, but I would take that with a total grain of salt when talking about the Knicks. Then I've got the Pistons at 32, right? And I've got the Cavaliers at 31, and I've got the Celtics at 30. But it's kind of one of those things. Is who's actually going to want it? So are these teams actually going to try to win the 8th seed? So they can get killed by Miami in round 1, or are they just basically going to bail out? And it's going to be one of these games of nobody wants to date the ugly girl, right? So and somebody's going to have to take the hit, and really because getting there, I mean, you get more money, but is more money from getting the playoffs worth it over getting the extra lottery pick? I mean, I think where it comes down to is I think the Knicks are going to make it by default, but it's going to be a really embarrassing number. So it might be something like 32 wins. I was looking through their schedule. I mean, I could see the Knicks blowing some games. I could see, for example, they play the Celtics at Boston in a couple nights, and, Rondo loves beating the crap out of the Knicks, right? So you start looking at it and going who's actually going to be left standing? I know the Cavs and the Knicks kind of want it, but does it actually make sense for it makes sense for the Knicks because they have no pick. But does it make sense for the Cavs to actually get in?
So give us your projected model for the 6, 7, and 8, and then again, like you said, let's look at that one last time. So who's your 6, 7, and 8 for the Eastern Conference?
6, 7, 8 for the Eastern Conference right now. It's we've got Toronto, Chicago, and Washington should be in, and the Nets are 6, and they've been really good. And it wouldn't surprise me if the Nets manage to get the 5 seed, either because they've been playing really well. I mean, they've had some injuries, but the untold story is that those guys actually have found some talent. The extra guys, the guys who are around that, are actually pretty good. They've got some other guys on that team, Sean Livingston, Kirilenko, who are, I mean, decent. Plumlee, they're good guys. I mean, they found that, and Kidd has turned it around.
Thornton also has been playing relatively well, surprisingly.
And that team, I always say that's the team that there's how older players surprisingly get healthy in the playoffs once the last drug test is in, then all of a sudden all these guys all of a sudden recover and start jumping around more than they should, and you laugh, but that really is a thing. So I mean, that team is a team that could all of a sudden like play really, really well in the playoffs. I don't necessarily.
Are you trying to insinuate that when Wade goes back in the locker room to get his knee taped, that's not really what's happening?
Yeah, but see, I'm trusting what I was there with 5 feet from Adam Silver when he said that the NBA players don't believe in the PD culture and there's no PD problem in the NBA. So I'm going to believe him, even though I've talked to like Kobe's German doctor who like basically led me to believe that Kobe probably couldn't compete in the Olympics right now.
Oh wow! Okay, interesting. So let's get back to our race for the last spots. So we got Brooklyn 6th. Who do you think is 7?
We got the Cats at 7. So basically, I think Jordan's going to have to postpone his golf vacation for a couple weeks.
Okay.
I think after that, I've got said the Hawks, but the Hawks are going to fade out. So it's kind of the Knicks by the slimmest of margins, right? But honestly, seriously, it's Knicks, Pistons, Cavs, right? But with the caveat that the Celtics wanted to make it, they probably could, but I don't think they want to. I think the Pistons, I mean, all 3 teams I mentioned are teams that have incentives to get in that I think, Dan Gilbert wants to get in, I think James Dolan wants to get in, and I think Joe Dumars wants to save his job, right? So I think so based on that, but even that, I mean, these teams have like, if you look at the records over the last 10 games, these teams have been terrible. So, I mean, it's like, it's almost like, as I said, it could come down to like, like who actually, we might have a game where like 2 teams are just not trying to win. Like we might have more than a few games where we have like 2 teams, are playing each other and none of them want to actually win and get into the playoffs, which is just be completely embarrassing.
Well, fascinating stuff, and thanks for all your projections. I'm looking forward to digging into those deeper and seeing how accurate they'll be. But you're right; it looks like it's going to be a real drag to the finish at the end of the Eastern Conference.
I actually do think 3 of those 4 matchups are going to be watchable. So I think, whoever plays Charlotte, if you watch them, Charlotte's some fun team to watch. Their problem is they couldn't think a shot in the ocean. Mm-hmm. So like if their balls are going, they play hard, they play good defense. It's a fun team. I actually like watching them on League Pass. The Nets are going to be interesting, as I said, because I think they're going to be better than they project. I think the Bulls, and I've been saying this for a while, I think the Bulls actually, their odds to win the East are way too low. I mean, that team could actually, surprise. It's not a 40-1 shot that something weird could happen and that team could like wind up making the finals. I mean, we're a twisted LeBron ankle away from them doing that. And right now, I don't know if I had the Pacers versus the Bulls, I'd really have to think about taking the Bulls in that series just because of the odds.
Wow. Well, that's some interesting stuff there. I can't wait to follow how this goes on. And again, it was great hanging out with you at Sloan and sharing some really great advanced analytical ideas. And we'll have to come back on later in the season and see how these predictions are playing out.
Yeah, and once we start talking about playoff projections too, that'll be fun.
Absolutely. Well, don't forget to check out boxscoregeeks.com for lots of wonderful advanced stat analysis. So check them out. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in?